This Monday morning, we are counting down to the start of what could be a raucous return to the House of Commons and the biggest test yet of the Liberals' minority government. MPs will take their seats this morning with an eventual election on their minds, and certainly a very different dynamic between two former legislative allies. The NDP has now, of course, pulled out of its deal to back the Liberals on confidence votes, and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is promising a vote that could topple the Liberals. He's saying he'll bring it forward as soon as possible. So let's bring in Janice McGregor. A busy day ahead in Ottawa, and she's live to set it all up for us. 11 o'clock Eastern this morning, Janice, that's when Parliament officially resumes. And as I mentioned, Pierre Poilievre is promising what he's calling a carbon tax election as soon as possible. How soon is soon? How likely is that scenario?
Not very soon at all, and not even necessarily very likely. I'm going to explain here. We could be weeks, maybe even a few months away from what he's asking for, notwithstanding the fact that he's been asking for this, not just for the last few days, but let's go back to the spring. Conservatives were calling for this. The issue is, though, they cannot trigger the fall of this government alone. They need the cooperation of the other two opposition parties. So I think as the House resumes today, it's really important to look at what these other two parties are saying. Let's start with the Bloc Québécois. Now, we know that Yves-François Blanchet, no love lost for Pierre Poilievre. He frequently speaks in very snarky tones about the Conservative leader. They are, of course, competing for many of the same seats in Quebec. They have no kind of reasonable strategic reason to want to work together at the moment. And Blanchet's Deputy House Leader, Christine Normandin, was on Rosemary Barton live yesterday talking about sort of the fact that the Conservatives were potentially bringing forward this motion at some point this fall. Listen to what she had to say about the prospects for that.
People in Quebec are not asking for elections to start with, and they're not asking either that we replace the actual government just for another government that they don't really want neither. It's either choosing between being bitten by a tarantula or a viper.
So it doesn't sound like when that non-confidence motion comes to pass that those Bloc Québécois MPs are going to be super keen to support it. Instead, the signals we've received from their camp is that they want to try their chances at getting some stuff from this Liberal government as it seeks to survive. They have a specific bill about increasing OAS pensions for people over 65. They want the government's support for that. They also are talking about some specific things that the government of Quebec wants to see in terms of immigration changes with respect to temporary foreign workers and asylum seekers. So let's consider the NDP. Of course, Jagmeet Singh has been talking very tough, but let's be frank. There is a bill in front of the Senate right now that until it passes, it's very hard to imagine the NDP wanting this Parliament to come to an end. It has to do with pharmacare. Were they to dissolve this Parliament and go to the polls before that sort of clears all stages and gets royal assent, all the work done on pharmacare, including kind of that deal last Friday in British Columbia, where they're also about to go to the polls, to have the federal government start paying for insulin, diabetes medication, contraception. The BC government has said it can now afford hormone replacement therapy medications for people because of this federal money. All that going to be in doubt if this Parliament falls as a result of a non-confidence motion. So the strategy for the NDP to pull the plug before that vote, that final Senate passage happens, just hard to see.
You know, I'm just looking at the schedule for today. I see NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh speaking at 11:15. I see at 9:30 the Government House Leader Karina Gould speaking. That's at 9:30. We'll be carrying that live on CBC Morning Live. Lots happening before things really get underway in the House. But then look ahead to the session, first question period, and what is going to be going on in Parliament. What do we watch for?
Yeah, and we really have to go back to what was arguably the very hottest issue in front of parliamentarians last June before they rose to the summer break. Remember how New Democrat MP Jenny Kwan rose and argued that following that report, that bombshell report really, from a committee of her fellow parliamentarians that suggested that some unnamed current or former parliamentarians were either witting or unwitting participants in foreign interference. She said that now there were suspicions hanging over her and other diaspora politicians, and that this was violating her rights and privileges as an MP. Speaker Greg Fergus is expected to hear some arguments from all the parties today about how parliamentarians might have to deal with this themselves. We heard Friday that their referral to the foreign interference inquiry to look at this is not going to work. Justice Marie-Josée Ugg has made it clear she doesn't have the mandate to name names. This is going to be for Parliament to figure out on its own. So how are they going to resolve this issue? The Speaker's really going to be in the hot seat.
Janice, thank you very much. Janice McGregor leading things off for us just before she moves to the foyer of the House, and we'll be bringing you extensive coverage from Ottawa today.